Well, good morning. Welcome to Real Life on the Homestead in Ontario. It is a cool, misty morning, but we have a big day ahead of us. We are rendering lard today. So I'm expecting the girls any time. I'm going to get some tea and coffee ready so when they arrive, we could stay warm out here. But I've got to get that back fat out of the freezer so that we can handle it a bit. But it's always best when it's out of the freezer. So I'm going to do that right now. Well, here it is. I'm just going to leave it on my stainless steel sink and hopefully it'll start to get softer because it's pretty hard right now. And I'm going to go up and get that coffee and tea. Damn, it's cold today. Some decaf tea made with fresh mint right out of the garden. And of course, good old-fashioned coffee because I'm going to need that energy. Ready to go. This is our group of friends working together. We're all homesteaders. The nice thing is we're not just doing the work together. We're also sharing skills that one may have and the other one would like to develop. And what we're going to do is take the fat off the skin. And I'm going to bring you closer because you should see what I'm working on here. We cut the back fat into strips. And from those strips, what I do is I like to slice it the same as you would, let's say, a melon. And from those strips, we're going to almost fillet like you would fillet some fish and take the fat off, leaving the skin behind. It's not a difficult task, but it is something you need to, I guess, develop. But what we'll do is take these portions of fat and then grind them. That skin, it's not going to go to waste. I'm going to be showing you how to make some pork rind or chicharron. And that'll be a whole different video. But look at this. See, little by little, all of us working together. And we are going to get through the fat of 3 pigs. We were lucky. We were gifted this fat. So we're happy to work together, share our skills, and end up with some amazing animal fat. Look how easy this is coming off. When I grind either meat or fat, I like to have it really cold. So if I find it's getting warmer, I put it in the freezer. However, it is so cold outside, we are just fine. I like to use this grinder. It is a game changer. So if you haven't purchased a quality grinder, I will link this one below. It makes the job so much easier. And really, if you can get the right equipment, the jobs get done so much easier. But this is the grind I'm looking for. It is the largest die, but not the kidney-shaped die. And I just put the fat through, grind it down. Being a smaller surface, you actually end up with a lot more lard in the end. When you have the big chunks, they never render down completely. You end up with more of the crisps at the end, but a lot less lard. So I just grind it up. As you can see, it's moving very quickly. And then this will go into a turkey roaster to start the rendering process. This is the exact same process I use for tallow, leaf lard, back fat. It's all the same. It's all the same process for rendering. You grind it up and then you render it down to remove any moisture so that it can be shelf stable. And we're going to continue to work, making sure that we end up with all our fat and all our skin separated, and then we grind it out. Now, because we were gifted this back fat, and some of it was a little bit on the freezer burn side, I'm not crazy about using this as our cooking lard. However, it will not go to waste. What I'm going to do is render it separately. That is separately from our other fat. And then what we'll do is we'll be making some soap with this lard. And that will be a video in the future. But nothing will go to waste. We were fortunate enough to have this gifted to us, and we will use every single bit. But I want to show you, again, how I take the back fat off the pig skin. People think it's hard, but it's not. Slice it up as if you were doing, let's say, a melon. Sharp knives are your best friends, remember that. And maybe if I have the camera on what I'm doing, it helps as well. So the first piece is always a little harder because you're just getting started. There you go. Look at that. Perfect, right? I'm going to grind right into a bag, and this is what we will be using to render later for soap. So like I said, it's going right into a bag, and it's going into the freezer for when we're ready to render it down. Well, that was really funny. I just realized after that little segment, I had my greasy hands all over the camera, so you're going to have a very hazy view. First, I'm going to do it in the oven roaster, and then I'm going to finish it on the stovetop. Now, both back fat and leaf lard rendering is the exact same way. I know this is bright and sunny, but I am starting to render the lard outdoors, but at the house, because I have some other things to do, and this will be a slow process. Now, as you can see, my roaster is very full, but as it starts to render down, it will start to melt and everything will be just perfect. Now, I am going to start off with a lid on, but I will not, I repeat, I will not add water. Every time I hear somebody say, start your lard or tallow with water to help it purify, it just makes me shake my head. How can you add water when the whole process is to remove any moisture? We want this to be shelf stable. Do not add water. I'll actually share with you a little trick that is so simple to collect the impurities and then remove them afterward. But stay tuned, that's later. Well, I've moved inside because it is friggin' cold out there. But I just wanted to have a little bit of a chat about not necessarily our fat rendering, but our little community. We all belong to a homesteading community. You know, people helping people as you needed. We try very hard to share our services, our knowledge, our goods, expecting nothing in return, because we are all like-minded. We're all here to help each other thrive. We are prepared, not scared, and we always are there for each other. Jamie today wasn't available while we were working on the lard because he was down the road helping other community members get a roof on their homestead. Ange brought over an amazing soup for our lunch, and it was so good that I think we'll be making it together, putting it on the shelf for the winter, and I'll show you how to can that. It's her recipe, but see if she'll come over and work with us while we're doing it. Danae, she brought over some hot peppers to help with our fire cider that we'll be making. Also, we'll be doing a video on that because everybody should have that on their pantry shelf so that when you're getting into that cold and flu season, you can treat it in a natural way. But homesteading is a way of life. It's a way of community. It's going back to old traditions, being there for each other, expecting nothing in return. I encourage you to find like-minded people. And when I say like-minded, you should have the same morals and ethics. Conflict, we get enough of that in everyday life. try to create a group or join a group in your area that has the same morals and ethics as you do. And do things like rendering lard, tallow, putting a roof on a neighbor's home where you're helping each other. It's not about getting ahead. It's not about who's better than the other person. It's about sharing your knowledge, sharing your strengths. When you need help, ask for it, because usually people are around to help you. So let's get back to our lard making. I really just wanted to express that because it's really been on my mind to share my thoughts about that. And this was the perfect opportunity. Let's get back to our lard. You can see how it's already gone down quite a bit from where we started. And do you see the beautiful golden lard there? That's what we are going to spoon off. It's not even been an hour. I have stirred it a few times, but look how much the volume has gone down. This is the beauty of grinding your fat. See how it is already rendering down so nicely? Now I'm going to let it keep going. This is the point where I start straining. You see the bubbles and you get in this golden color. Let me just show you. You see how much rendered fat there is already. So I'm going to show you how I strain this. And then I take it into a Dutch oven on the stove just to evaporate any of that moisture out of this. Because this video is getting so long, I am going to continue with the portion that I did for the leaf lard. But remember, both are exactly the same procedures. Now this is how I render off the fat. I'm actually using a Pyrex measuring cup, but you can absolutely use a ladle. I just find I get more with this. And I'm just skimming right off the top, as much fat as possible. And I'm using a fine mesh strainer. But if you wanted to, you could use some cheesecloth at this point. I like to use cheesecloth if I feel I need it in the last straining. And there's quite a bit of lard already accumulated. Look at that. Now I just dump any fat back in and let it keep rendering. I'm going to move this onto the stove in the kitchen. All I do is take my rendered fat, I put it in my Dutch oven, and I just let this come up to a good simmer and let it evaporate any of the remaining moisture. Look at that. Look how beautiful that's starting to bubble up. This is all the moisture leaving the fat. This is what we want to get rid of so that it will be shelf stable. Now, because I notice I'm making a video that's way too long, I am going to finish this off with the portions of me doing the leaf lard so that you can see the whole process. But remember, everything is identical. Leaf lard, back fat, it's all rendering the same way. Same as tallow. Now, as I promised, there is a way to get those last few impurities. And I'm actually going to link my tallow video where I use a dairy container to harden up the fat and then remove the impurities from the bottom. So I'll link that in the description rather than showing it to you. Now, as you can see, you can barely see any bubbles coming up. That means the moisture is out of this fat. And that's what we want for shelf stable. Now I've got some jars prepared here. I'm actually going to do 1/2 cup measures and 1 cup measures. That's because my leaf lard is used for baking and my recipes will call for 1 cup if I'm just doing, let's say, a pie crust with leaf lard, it will be 1 cup. If I'm doing a 1/2 butter, 1/2 lard, I'll use a 1/2 cup. So what I'm actually doing is making sure that it's easy measures when we need it. Now I'm going to place these in the oven just to have them warm before we add the lard. And I'm trying to do this without dropping anything and videotaping at the same time. Now, all I'm doing is bringing them up to temperature. I am not going to make them super hot. I just want, when the hot fat goes into the jars, they are close to equal, and that way we won't have any breakage. And then, of course, my lids will be warm and dry. Make sure that they are dry. I'll place the lids on to seal them, and they will be shelf stable. Again, this is super simple. Hot fat, metal ladle, metal funnel, hot jars. This ladle is also a 1/2 cup measure, but I am being super careful with it. I do have a canning ladle, but it's not metal, and I don't want to take any chances. And right away, I am going to put a lid on that and seal it up. Now, one thing I didn't mention, and I think is a great practice, is when you're dealing with hot oil and you have a gas or propane stove, shut off the flame before you're leading with this. You don't want to carry over some liquid, spill it, and cause a grease fire. So that's just a common sense thing, but I thought I'd share that. Look at how gorgeous these jars of leaf lard are. Now I'm just gonna wait for them to cool off, and when they cool off, they will turn a bright white. I will then check the seals, and if there is any that aren't gonna seal, I will vacuum seal them. Otherwise, what I'll do is take off all the bands, and these will go into the cold room. Now you ask, well, you took out that bit of lard from the bottom of the package. What happens to that lard? No waste here. It's going into a jar, and you can see that is not mold or dirt. That is the protein solids from the pork that settled to the bottom. So what I'm going to do is just put this on the side of my stove and use it for cooking. There is zero waste here, folks. I've had a moment where I haven't been paying attention, put too much in the jar. So now I'm taking a piece of paper towel with some vinegar on it and making sure that there is no grease on that rim so that it will seal. This is my very last jar, and because it was the bottom, it's going to have a little bit more impurities in it. So I'm going to use this one for cooking. And there's the bottom of my pot. You could just see a bit of impurities there, but I'm not washing this. I'm just going to start cooking my dinner in this tonight. Here we go, folks. This is our leaf lard that has been rendered down. Now, regardless if you have leaf lard or back fat, the rendering process is exactly the same. It's just, I prefer to use the leaf lard when I have it for baking. If I don't have it, my lard is just fine as well. But either way, this is a very nutritious animal fat. Stay away from Crisco, stay away from margarines. When you can have natural products, go for that. It makes so much more sense. Here we are. This is how your lard will look once it's hardened up. And as you can see, it's a beautiful bright white. And now the way to tell if a jar is sealed is, so you take off your band, and if you can lift your jar up by the seal, it's good. So all you do is label it and put it in a cool, dark place. Now this is the exact same method for leaf lard or back fat lard. Lard is lard. And now all my equipment is nice and clean and ready to pack up for the next time we need to grind something up. Well, it looks like I'm going to be working a little longer in the kitchen, But at this point, I just wanted to thank you so much for joining me, my friends, as we rendered some animal fats. Now, I will put some information in the description box, which I encourage you to read, because this is crucial that people realize that animal fats is what our bodies need. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time. Tried to shorten the video a bit just because I don't want to waste your time. Make sure that you're subscribed to our channel. It really helps. And share with your friends. And like our videos if you think you've gotten something out of it. Now, go out, make yourself some lard to put on your shelf, and live your very best life.